My name's Jonathan. Welcome to the Haystack. Um, so I'm not sure how many of you guys have noticed this, but Mars and Regulus and Venus have been in conjunction. Venus lately has been a little closer down to the horizon. Last night I came out, looked outside. My brother had let me know to, hey, go outside, look at Venus. Either Venus moved fast or all three, Venus, Mars, and Regulus, were all conjoined together. Now, by the time I actually looked, I checked on my star maps, and Venus had already dropped below the horizon. So that big reddish glow is coming from the red, flashy star Regulus, which is the brightest star in the Leo constellation, the Lion. It's known as the heart of the lion, the prince or little king. It's has a lot of different associations with it. So obviously I've seen a bunch of people. I tried looking it up, seeing how relevant it was, and saw these spiritualist people, astrologers, associating the number 777 to it, which, there's some relevance there. But the more and more I kept looking into this, I kept finding a little bit more relevance. And one thing I found that really caught my attention was when Regulus gets conjoined with Mars or Jupiter or Venus, that it takes on special meaning, and events in history tend to occur. And one belief is that it was the conjoined movement of Jupiter, which is the king planet, aligning with the king star, and that was all on the lead up to the birth of Christ in Bethlehem. That this was the star that it rested over Bethlehem. And I don't know about that. We've heard various different theories and thoughts on that. And it's possible, and there's a lot of symbolism there, especially with Leo, the lion, being associated with the tribe of Judah, Christ coming out of the lineage of Judah on both sides, through Joseph, his adopted father, and through his mother. And but Regulus itself, that it's a pretty bright star. I tried to see if there's any kind of history relevance to it, because yes, I know that it's not getting into the mystical weird crap, all right, but I do like to see the trends and patterns and what ancient peoples did associate with these things, because there is meanings to them, and obviously the Lord uses these meanings to communicate to people, and did so with the Magi. I assume that they're considered the among the magicians and men of science of the time. Likely they were taken and part of the lost tribes of Israel, and wise men of those areas who sought and looked through Jewish scripture and ancient scripture, and even if they looked through various different scriptural or historical records, they would start finding parallels and similarities between different cultures and go, oh, hey, this must be from a long time ago. Because that's what we do today. And then we kind of sift that out, hopefully with the Spirit. But the relevance with 777 had something to do with adding up numbers, and that's the thing I don't know too much about, because I don't think it was using a Hebraic pattern. I forget, it's not numerology, it's called something else. but it associates some other thing with it. That's probably something I should probably look at again. The really cool part, I think, is that it was also conjoined with Venus. Venus is known as the bright, shiny star. It's the morning star, also the dawn. It's known throughout all these different cultures very similarly. And it's associated, if you look at the Roman goddess Venus, she's associated with love and passion and care. Actually, let me pull this up. God of beauty, love and peace, shiny one, morning and evening star, equivalent to the Egyptian Isis. Isis is associated with fertility and agriculture and her divine son. What's her divine son? Osiris or Horus? I can't remember, but a lot of people associate them with Christ, and that's very interesting all in itself, and too much to get into right now about that. Mars, however, is a god of war, martial law. So people had made the connection that they're associating Donald Trump with Mars and Regulus, because Mars invites hostility, or its conflict, unsettledness, whereas Regulus also means order, god of order. It's a straight line, resolute. So Regulus is associated with the heart. I'm saying that a lot. Heart of the lion, because it's that heart of the lion. It's the king star, the little king, because it's guiding on a straight path. It's on a true path. It's resolute. I find this significant because of what we actually see with Ursa Major, the bear, and how that connects with the North Star. That's the Big Dipper, right? Now, that in Egyptian records is shown as the bull's leg or thigh, which is, cool. That's their thing. All right. What brings my attention to that is when Jacob is meeting when Israel is meeting with his son Joseph. He takes Joseph's hand, places it on his thigh, and gives him a blessing. What? Why would you do that? Like, Dad, I want to be touching your freaking hairy leg, dude. It's all sweaty and old man wrinkly. Ugh. I'm kidding. So I thought about it, and you would typically have your dagger. The patriarch of a family would carry a dagger attached to the thigh. This is meant for practical purposes as well as spiritual and just symbolic purposes, where it's by that dagger, by that knife, you are defending your family, your land, and that you're also use that dagger to offer up sacrifices to God. And I thought, oh my gosh, hey, that's pretty cool. And then how we have Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, and the North Star chiseled on the Salt Lake Temple. I'm like, well, why would we do that? Oh man, must be that Joe Smith into that demonology. No. There's practical purposes for everything. All right, so there's many articles and people who have spoken on this, but it has to do with the commitment that we have to be true, and it's a marker. It's a marker point to illustrate where the North Star is, because the North Star isn't a significantly bright star. So you use that constellation, which goes all around it, helps you identify where it is and pinpoint it very quickly, and shows you're on an undeviating path. So I find this very, very significant that it's associated with covenant making, that this would be done with patriarchs or the covenant law, passing on that covenant blessing, that it's Joseph's posterity that receives that covenant blessing. Something I just listened to recently is, what's his name? A rabbi I haven't heard from before. His name was Abir Davidi. I think he's either South African or Australian. I can't tell because his accent is heavily mixed with a very Jewish accent, which is very weird. It's like, oh, I can't even. But it's hilarious, and he's very good. He's been actually doing quite a few videos on the 10 tribes, the lost tribes of Israel, particularly on the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, and talking about Moshiach ben Yosef, which is Messiah ben Joseph. And anyone who's looked into that, it shows a lot of parallels with Joseph Smith. In fact, many rabbis in hushed tones uttered as much in a university in Israel. But what this rabbi was associating or saying was Moshiach ben Yosef, he said the United States itself was Moshiach ben Yosef. And I'm like, you have no idea how on point you are. And it's funny because he also had, the Tudor Rose? The Tudor Rose. I think that's associated with, connected with Ephraim. A symbol. It became very big in the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries. We had the War of the Roses. This is kings fighting over everything, and then you have the United Kingdom, and that's put in, and you have the unicorn and the unicorn and another animal, the lion and the unicorn, I think, on their royal crest. You have the Tudor Rose and some other things, and it was to show royal lineage. This rabbi spoke about how the Celts have a huge history about them being from Israel and being scattered tribes. And I've actually looked into that a lot myself. I know a lot of you probably have too. The really cool part is when I was studying my family history, I saw that the early Hay clan, which Hayes comes out of, they were one of the settled up in Scotland. We have Gilbert de la Haye, and de la Haye because originally part of Scotland, then down into Normandy. You had Vikings come in. The French king gave all the Vikings land and said, "Leave us alone." And they integrated in part of that society. And then some of the Hay clan went back to Scotland. And you have a very unique relationship in the 11th century with Scotland and France. And this is where I think it's Gilbert de la Haye. He ends up becoming very close with Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce is the king who led the Scots to independence from England. So you had King Longshanks, who instituted Parliament. Gil de la Haye, that man de la Haye, he had many brothers too, but one of them was one of the first representatives in Parliament. Yet, when Robert the Bruce and he butted heads, Robert the Bruce and King Longshanks butted heads, de la Haye kept his loyalty to Scotland, held the title of, was it Constable and Protector of the Realm of Scotland, and was fought with Robert the Bruce through to the very end for their independence, was loyal to him completely all through there. Now you have, what comes out of that is you have a War of the Roses, you have fights, the Jacobites, and people fighting over kingship, but also people fighting for religious freedom. And then you have the Puritan movement. I think they go to what is it? The Danish live in Holland? Yeah. Anyway, they go to different places. Doesn't work out. I think they went to Holland, picked up some Danish people, tribe of Dan people, made their way, got back to England, then hightailed it out of there, made it to the United States. This is 400 years ago. Introduce first draft of a constitution. Puritans all settle. After a while, you get some bad rye. You have the Salem witch trials. People are hallucinating like crazy, seeing some ridiculous things. Those people die horrible deaths. And when we move on, 200 years after this, we have the first vision. And then 200 years is now. What's significant is 200 years after the Puritans came in, all that stuff, we have, I guess, 197 years. You have the first vision. 3 years after that, you have the visit from Angel Moroni. That is 200 years from this fall. That is when things really start to change. And Joseph, from age 14, now age 17, has entered this preparation period where he has to now prepare to receive the record, because the Book of Mormon, which is going to be restored, is going to be the driving force for gathering of Israel. What had to happen is we needed a country, we needed a land, a constitution. This is all a chain of history of people being preserved, fighting for religious liberty and freedom, wanting to enjoy the blessings of Abraham, essentially. You know, their love and desire just for land, just to live, and not be under the tyranny of a king. And here we are. Oh, there it is. There's that star. It just popped up. I think that's Venus. It won't catch on here, I don't think. Anyways, what ends up happening is I forgot where I was, but the Book of Mormon is the driving force for the gathering of Israel. This land was preserved for the very purpose for the church to be restored, authority to be restored, and for the gathering to take place, so that we can set up a constitution, that we become the greatest nation in all of the earth, so we could be a protector of Israel. Israel, where we actually had apostles go and bless the land, preparatory for the return of the Jews to that land. since that time, the Jews have been, since their return, they've been protected in the land, to keep it at least, to some extent. And we've seen the ebbs and flows from that. And so this is a very, it really shows how Moshiach ben Yosef, that if you've seen Jared's videos about showing the population of people that came through, is mostly English. Then you have your Irish and German. And I mean, the German population was very key for us as well. It was key for us to have the gospel down in South America. Why? Because after World War II, those Nazis who got away made their way down in Argentina, and the first mission language in South America was down there, and it was German. And then we worked our way back up to the United States border, up to Mexico. Since then, it's one of the hugest growing places. These continents have been growing. Everything has been established for the gathering of Israel. You cannot tell me that this land, and in particularly this church, this people, have been playing a key role in fulfilling that blessing which Jacob, Israel, gave his son Joseph when he placed his hand upon his thigh. Gave him a blessing that not only would Manasseh and Ephraim be his, be Jacob's, be Israel's, but it would be through that lineage that his people would be preserved and restored. Do you have goosebumps? I got goosebumps, but I also got a little bit more chilly. And this rabbi already sees Israel as, that's the land. You go to Russia, they talk about the great land. What's the great land? That's America, that's the United States. And now we're at this pinnacle point. I get excited. So we're at this point where we have, oh my gosh, people like Kamala Harris, who I thought I couldn't talk well, but if you need a self-esteem boost, listen to that for a few minutes. I mean, I know that's critical, but I mean, goodness, how is it? It kind of makes you go like, you know what? I think I could run for president, because I know I could at least do better than that. I mean, I could for sure keep cocaine out of the West Wing of the White House. I'm pretty sure anybody could do that. So those are all just appendages. That's not the real issue. That's not a real problem. The thing is that the Jews, some rabbis at least, are recognizing that the United States is the heart of Moshiach ben Yosef, which is not a Messiah that is to be worshipped, but is a Messiah that serves a purpose. It is a restorer. It's like an Elias, and it's a preparer. And that flood of fire is coming. In fact, back to astronomy, 4th of July. 4th and 5th of July, I think we're on record for the hottest accumulative over the Earth days in all of recorded history that we know of. Which is funny because it wasn't too as hot as it's been before here, but in other places of the world, yes, it was very hot. You want to know what the astronomical cool thing that was going on at that time? the sun was in conjunction with Sirius. That's also known as the dog star. Some people like to associate Sirius with Kolob, saying that Kulb in Egyptian could be, or that Kokabim, or the Kolob could be that star spoken of. Means dog, but we don't know. We don't know for sure. That's one plausibility, one possibility. But why would Sirius being in conjunction with our sun have any effect on us? Well, to whatever degree there is, all matter is organized and serves a purpose, and all these things, our solar system is in this coil. You talk to any of these, like a Native American or Navajo elder, and talk to them about the solar system, and they'll say, oh no, we have 12 planets and we go in a spiral, kind of like a snake, right? And snake imagery is all over the place too, and if you do look at our solar system, we do spiral. And the point of that is that you're always moving towards, a path that's already, that there's a head at, that you're always coiling up like a spring. You're always exalting. You're always going further. I mean, I'm not sure if this has any relevance, but if we, like, I try and think, we have a 365 day year. Part of me is like, well, 360 is a perfect circle. I know it doesn't work like that, but having the additional 5, it's kind of like, hey, you're not going back to where you were before, going a little bit more. We need to overlap this because we need to overcome the past. I think time itself is one of the most significant veils we have. That time itself can be a veil. You have life, death. People saying that veil of life and death is being torn open. When Christ was resurrected, when he died, that veil was torn symbolically in the temple, but also to allow us into his presence, the holy place. Anyways, I'm just chatting my brain off, and yeah, Sirius and the sun, how does that affect us? I have no idea. But if it's anything like how the sun, how we have a lunar eclipse or solar eclipse and a shadow is cast on here, I mean, I'm sure we have lots of conjunctions all the time, but one is significant as Sirius. We know gamma rays, we know matter is fine particle, we know spirit is matter, just more refined. Is this a deliverance of heat? Is that the heat coming in? I don't know, but it certainly does have symbolic meaning, that we have knowledge to know that the earth just got warmer, and there's this alignment happening which have symbols associated with them, constellations, which previous generations and nations and peoples have gone their whole lives while orchestrated to it. In fact, if you look at the stars, you'll see a few of the early Paleo Hebrew alphabet. Now, not all the letters are accounted for, but it was once said that they would go at night and study the heavens. They would study the heavens for the Word of God. Now, that's significant to me because, I mean, we use telescopes and that gathers light through the lenses and gives us more information, helps us see something further away, gives us more eyes to see, gives us more knowledge, understanding. So does also the scriptures. The scriptures are as a lens into the eternities. There are telescopes. The Hubble telescope went out and we saw the pillars of creation. We saw wonderful creations. We saw many wonderful things that we never even thought of. It changed everything. We're like, all right, we're on top of it. We got it all. Just like how those creeds and councils compiled biblical records and said, okay, we've got all of God's word. We're good. What do we do now? We study it. But those seeking more light, more knowledge, seeking more, went on and designed a new telescope. James Webb, which was enclosed, folded in gold, launched out, and now it's rewriting history. We're seeing things that we never saw before. In fact, this is significant. It's actually seeing other light waves that Hubble telescope didn't pick up. And there's things like we can't see certain light waves with our eyes. With technology, it can recognize it, and then we can color it and define it so it's something that we can perceive. We do this. We did it again. It's like our prophet who sees behind corners. Tells us it's the Spirit who testifies to us what is there, communicates to us. We know that there's something there. We feel it. We see it. We're like, oh, that's beautiful. But then we need the prophet, the authority, that's the key piece, to come in and tell us and help us understand and communicate this to us. I feel like if we could see all things of light, all life, I would think, would radiate some amount of light if our eyes were perceptive enough to receive that light. Currently, one of the best, truest ways is through the Spirit. Can you see it? Dang it. Anyways, and I was thinking of when Joseph Smith saw Angel Moroni nearly 200 years ago, exactly almost. He recorded it as all the light from around him gathered in and was in this conduit of light which descended, and the angel descended out of it, who was brilliant, full of light. Now, how is that not blinding anybody else in the room or anything else? If an angel were to appear, would everybody else see it? And it occurred to me that there was there must have been an unveiling, a temporary unveiling, or a transfiguration? What's the temporary one? Yeah, transfiguration for the ability to perceive light that is there. Imagine, like, even when he saw God the Father and Jesus Christ, he looked at the leaves and feared that they would catch fire. But then the light from the Lord outshined all the other light around it. Kind of made me think, was his mind unveiled that he could even see the light of the life coming out of the trees and things around him? But then the greater light came in and outshined even that? Probably not, but it made me think that. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm scatterbrained. I was in carb overload from working outside, and then had a bunch of pasta, and was feeling sleepy. And then Betty Horn just stated in one of Jared's comments, "Hey, will you?" I can't remember what she said, but talk about this. Anyways, go out tonight, check it out. This will probably be a long time before it gets uploaded. It takes forever to do it. But I think we are on a pinnacle of a new threshold. A lot of those spiritualist people were saying that this is our entrance into a new era, a new time, a new phase. And the way I look at stuff is people are always arguing over, no, the Earth only has a 7,000 year temporal lifespan, and other people are like, no, we've been here for thousands of years. That's crazy. And I'm thinking, well, the Lord creates matter. He takes unorganized matter and reorganizes it. And it seems like if we look at all the different stages and everything, we don't see an evolutionary change in pattern necessarily. You see completely different species come into a next phase, or a new creation, where the laws, the carbon, the oxygen, whatever the laws are on this earth, change. And there are some things which live that are adaptable and compatible with that change, and others which are not. But even with that change, they turn into something different, something pure. Almost like tadpole to a frog. But in this case, it's changing to the environment of the world. The world changed. So, is that what it is? Is a creation period simply, creation for you, this family, all the laws we've talked about, everything we've gone over, that's been the past 7,000 years. So, is that what it is? And are we on that threshold? Or do we still have time? But what about man? Hasn't man existed for all that time? There are people saying that man has existed for 23,000 years that is just like us. Not even a Neanderthal. That Neanderthals were there and other people were there, but we just killed them off. Or they were incompatible. Whatever it may be. Some suggest the Neanderthal was simply a 900-year-old man. But then again, the fragments and things that we have of those things are fossilized and partial pieces, and have even been shown to not be correct in some cases. And it's weird when we say, well, you can't, it carbon dates to this period, but you can't carbon date fossil, there's no carbon left in it. And it's not good after a certain amount of time. So they're not carbon dating it, they're dating it by other methods. Say, well, the sediment record is like this. But does that account for cataclysms? I mean, the Younger Dryas very, very significantly covered all of North America directly over to the Mediterranean in Turkey. That was the flood area. Wow. But wait, didn't it kill everybody? Wasn't it a global flood? Was it the flood simply a flood of significant change? Where the flood in that manner, did it only affect those who were under covenant? Were there other people there who had not had the breath of life or the Spirit given them yet. I don't know. And I know everyone's going, you don't need to think about that stuff. But I like thinking about stuff. But I also like looking at the scriptures and trying to understand them. And I think that it's beneficial for us to understand scriptural context. And just like Jared on his video earlier this morning with the rabbi, he was telling that story about Joseph and Potiphar's wife. That story is also in Jasher. That one's probably a little manipulated a little bit more, but it's borrowing off of the was it Mishnah or Torah or Quran, which all give this demonstration of how the priest studied it and looked at the torn garment and said, yeah, he didn't do that. And I have some big stuff to go over with Moses, Joseph, and Abraham. Some really fascinating stuff that I just haven't put into something that's cohesive and easy to follow. But there's additional records in Scripture, and all of it needs to be discerned with the Spirit. I mean, how many times have you gone into a classroom, studied astronomy or science class or even literature or history, and then feel the Spirit significantly, and then have something highlight to you something that is not really even being talked about? I feel like this is one of the main ways that I learn things. I get a breadcrumb. And that first breadcrumb, that might not be the right answer. So if I am excited and I follow it, it's intriguing to me, and I share it, other people will go, yo man, that's stupid, man. That's stupid. That doesn't mean anything. Just stick to what you're told directly. You don't need to think about that. But yet, we're asked to seek and find personal revelation. Now the thing is, like, well, what if that revelation has already been revealed? There's so much revelation that has been revealed that we don't commonly understand or know about. And maybe because it's not so pertinent. But when you're seeking for further light and knowledge, the Lord delivers that. And I've been finding that significantly lately, where I get this breadcrumb and I develop a hypothesis and follow it to later find that, oh yeah, there's this record of a prophet actually saying that, or in this translation actually does say this. And I go, oh, okay. It's like John Taylor when he talks about the Nephilim, or the Nephilim who married the daughters of man. To me, I thought of all the different, theories, just like everybody else. But when I started really thinking about the principles of the gospel, the boundaries and the pattern, and looking at what the Lord actually says with the same language in other scripture, particularly revealed scripture, like the Book of Mormon, Pearl of Great Price, and Doctrine and Covenants, that kind of helps you structure and understand, oh, these are the pieces that I needed to get the big picture. I feel like those Nephilim were, priests, people born within the covenant that married outside the covenant, possibly even royal or priestly groups that used that position to do bad things. In fact, I possibly could even include, I'm not even going to get into that, but and then I hear a video today that says, yeah, John Taylor said it's people not keeping within the marriage covenant. And I'm like, hot dog, Cool. Then the other one, find something that Hugh Nibley stated, and I'm like, hey, you don't need to be a scholar to receive revelation. The Lord communicates to you in ways that you will understand. Oh, that's the International Space Station. It was lit up really bright and then just disappeared. So just crossed that horizon. Anyways, stars are popping out. I gotta start uploading this video. It's already way too long. I doubt anybody's actually made it to the end. Take care. Love you all.